The eye. She wanted to see. That was all. After 20 years in darkness, Sydney Wells stood at the edge of a new life, one she had only imagined through sound, scent, and touch. A renowned violinist, blind since childhood, her world was a composition of vibrations. But when a corneal transplant offered the miracle of sight, she embraced the risk, unaware that it wasn't just light she'd be letting in. At first, the images were disjointed, blurred motion, filtered color, disorienting depth. But soon, her vision sharpened, and the world unveiled itself in full. Faces, objects, reflections, ordinary things most take for granted, now overwhelmed her with their intensity. Yet amid the wonder was something she hadn't anticipated. A figure by her hospital door, a child watching her sleep, a woman weeping in the hall, unnoticed by everyone else, and always just standing there. The doctors said it was trauma, visual confusion, a mind adapting too fast to the flood of light. Her therapist, Paul, leaned on science and stability, charting her recovery with careful optimism. But Sydney knew what she was seeing. These people weren't part of the living world. They didn't move like others. They didn't blink. Some didn't even breathe. Each night brought more. A burned man following her through city streets. An old woman mouthing silent warnings from behind restaurant glass. Sydney tried to convince herself it was temporary, a side effect, a misfire of the brain. But denial has a short fuse, and when a stranger screamed her name in an elevator, screamed for help, screamed in terror, there was no space left for doubt. Her nights became war zones. Visions invaded her sleep, bled into her daylight hours, growing bolder, more violent. A boy who kept repeating the same final moments. A figure walking through flames toward her window. She lost her appetite, couldn't play her music, could barely hold a conversation without glimpsing someone no one else could see. And then she saw them before they died. It happened at dinner. A man in a suit, laughing with colleagues, suddenly enveloped by smoke no one else noticed. Sydney watched, frozen, unable to act. Minutes later, an explosion ripped through the restaurant, screams, sirens, chaos. But she had already seen it happen. She had seen the smoke. She had seen him die. The hospital visits grew frequent. Neurological exams, psychiatric evaluations. Everyone searched for a diagnosis, but no one asked the right question. Where had the eyes come from? Who had seen through them before? Sydney did. She tracked down the donor's records, desperate to trace the source of the terror stitched into her vision. The trail led south, a small town. A woman named Ana Cristina Martinez, dead by her own hand, weeks before the transplant. Sydney walked through that community like a trespasser, seeing everything Ana had, the prejudice, the fear, the fire. Ana had begged her neighbors to evacuate before the refinery exploded. No one believed her. They called her mad. She burned with them. Now her eyes were Sydney's, and her warnings hadn't stopped. Each vision Sydney experienced was a replay, a warning not heard in time. But Sydney could hear it now, could see it clearly. And if she paid attention, if she braved the horror long enough, maybe she could prevent what Ana never could. The final vision came in fragments, a line of vehicles, an overpass, children crying. She saw the panic on a man's face, the flames beneath steel. It wasn't just a dream, it was a premonition. She raced to the scene. Traffic stretched for miles. The signs were all there, gas leaks, a faulty tanker, a chain reaction just seconds from ignition. Paul didn't believe her at first, but something in her urgency, her conviction, cut through his doubt. Together they fought through barricades, screamed to anyone who would listen. It wasn't enough. The fire began beneath them, a roar from below. Sydney turned to see the same smoke she had seen in the restaurant. Only this time, she wasn't watching it happen. She was inside it. Flames tore through the pavement, screams filled the air. Sydney was thrown by the blast. She felt her bones collide with metal, glass in her skin. But she had warned them. Dozens escaped, hundreds survived. Her body lay broken, but her sight, the legacy of another's torment, had served its purpose. And now, once again, darkness returned. But it wasn't the same. This new blindness wasn't loss, it was silence. A closing door after chaos. Sydney lay in the hospital, her eyes bandaged, her hands motionless. Music played somewhere nearby, soft and steady. She didn't need to see to understand. What she carried was more than a second chance at vision. It was the burden of knowing, of witnessing. And she wasn't sure if she would ever want to see again.